Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, how is Sleepy Joe supposed to do anything productive, supposed to solve any problem, if he refuses to acknowledge that they even exist, or if his team that surrounds him takes advantage of the fact that he's senile and doesn't even know what the hell's going on around him, and so they fabricate this alternate reality around Sleepy Creepy Piss Pants Joe to keep him unaware of what's really going on. I mean, you guys remember after 2 years of Joe refusing to visit the southern border, after facing questions from Peter Doocy and other individuals willing to ask real questions in the White House press corps, Mr. President, when are you going to visit the border? He finally caved in, tried to find a moment to visit El Paso, but something was a little bit weird, a little bit off with Sleepy Creepy Piss Pants Biden's visit to the southern border. It seemed almost fake. And that's because it was. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Now look, I'm not arguing that the whole thing was fake or that it was staged. Well, it was staged to an extent. He did actually go to the southern border. He did actually go to El Paso, but he didn't see the crisis. You all remember this. Crisis? What crisis? El Paso clears migrant camps ahead of Biden's first trip to the border on Sunday as frustrated agents say numbers always fall in January and he might as well have gone to Des Moines. Crisis? What crisis? As Joe Biden visits El Paso, what started off as this, overnight before the president comes in, turned into this. Look at these amazing sliders from the Daily Mail. Reality versus Joe Biden alternate reality created by his staff and Secret Service. Reality? Joe Biden land. Look at this one. Reality? Joe Biden alternate reality. Joe Biden taking this humanitarian crisis real seriously by going to El Paso in the middle of January during the biggest downturn and not even seeing the extent of the crisis itself because they cleared the streets before he got there. There's Joe Biden's fantasy world, and then there's reality, which even CNN is now accurately reporting.
It's difficult to describe, Jim, with words, so I want to walk so you can walk with me and just see the magnitude of the number of individuals who are around this church here, just streets from downtown El Paso. A lot of these individuals you'll see are males, adult males. A lot of the women with children are actually in shelters, in a network of shelters throughout El Paso. As you mentioned, the city of El Paso under a state of emergency. They declared a disaster because of the influx, because they know that once Title 42 lifts, that there is going to be a greater influx of migrants. But here's the thing, so process this with me. Title 42 allows immigration agents to swiftly return migrants back to Mexico. So the obvious question, as you look around, is then why are there so many migrants if the federal government is actually implementing this Title 42? Then why are there so many migrants out here? Well, here's what we know. From talking to migrants and community leaders and officials on both sides of the border, I can tell you that thousands of migrants, nearly 40,000, are in at least 4 northern Mexican cities, and frustration is boiling over. A lot of them are deciding to cross the border. That's why you see so many out here. Some of them are turning themselves in to border authorities, Jim. Others are deciding to cross the border illegally because they've lost patience.
Here's some more independent footage, which is even worse. And so there's what Joe Biden saw, and then there's the actual reality of his border policies. You know, if you're implementing policies, if you're making decisions, you should probably know what the actual outcome is. But no, of course not. Joe's not doing anything, not taking anything seriously. And as the problem is now expected to surge, even MSNBC's reporting on it.
Next week, they're already at capacity in their shelters here in these processing centers, but it's expected to get far beyond that. In fact, we have heard estimates north of 10,000 migrants crossing per day. But some things have changed in recent years. For example, this area behind me has seen thousands of migrants crossing over the Rio Grande every day, the kind of numbers that would have led to those masses that we saw under the bridge in Del Rio, Texas just 2 years ago. But now they're getting them out quickly. Buses and buses keep coming by here, taking migrants away.
Title 42 is coming to an end, and officials are expecting over 10,000 illegal immigrants per day. That's over 300,000 a month and close to 4 million a year. In other words, let's say 50 to 100% increase from the current state that we're at. We're already in crisis zone. Imagine 1.5 to 2 times that. As Republicans want to address the issue by attempting to pass a Remain in Mexico bill, Joe Biden is promising to veto it. Any such legislation will instantly get slapped down by the piss-pants fool in the office. On Monday, the White House announced that Joe Biden would veto an immigration bill coming out of the House of Representatives that would reinstitute several Trump-era policies, including construction of the border wall and the Remain in Mexico policy, which stated that anyone seeking asylum had to wait in Mexico as their claim was processed. It's not even a crazy, outlandish, racist policy. It's a logical policy that's gonna help the crisis, but Joe doesn't want to hear any of it. For Democrats, the idea of actually enforcing and implementing the law, well, they're simply allergic to it. Here's House Democrat Chair Peter Aguilar claiming Democrats want order at the border.
What do you think of the president's approach to what is happening at the border?
Well, House Democrats want order at the border. We want asylees treated with dignity and respect, but we also understand the importance of making investments to ensure that that happens.
Well, if you want order at the border, you would implement policies that create order at the border. Democrats simply do everything to create chaos and further crisis. Again, how are they supposed to implement basic common sense policies if they're living in a damn fairy tale? If they refuse to acknowledge basic truths? You know, even on the issue of asylum, they claim that Republican policies are simply inhumane, they're wrong, they're racist, and that all these poor migrants want is a shot at asylum. And their solution to that is enabling a border in chaos, where migrants essentially try to subvert the actual legal asylum process. Then when you ask these same Democrats, seem to contradict themselves by saying stuff like this.
What House Democrats want to also make sure that we focus on are these root causes of migration. You know, people are fleeing difficult and dangerous conditions. They're fleeing economic issues. They're fleeing because of climate change, and they aren't able to farm the land that they used to farm with hurricanes.
Which one is it? I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Are migrants storming the southern border asylum seekers, or are they economic migrants? This guy is talking about asylum seekers, then goes on to say people are fleeing difficult and dangerous conditions and economic issues. They're fleeing because of, quote, climate change. That's not asylum. People who are granted asylum are people who are fleeing political persecution. That's economic migration. That's people not liking their current social status, economic upward mobility, economic opportunities in their home country, and wanting to come to the United States and challenge Americans for American jobs, putting downward pressure on wages, contributing to the current cost of living crisis that Americans are feeling. These people are out of line. Their standard for asylum seeking makes literally no sense. And if that standard was legitimately implemented, then literally anyone from any country who doesn't like their job or doesn't like their economic opportunities from any country that happens to be poorer than the United States. Oh wait, that's every country literally, except I don't know, maybe people from like Singapore and Switzerland, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but basically every single country is poorer than the United States and has less economic opportunity. By the Democrat definition, that means literally everybody is an asylum seeker. It's completely ludicrous, and most importantly, it's unsustainable in its current state. Now with the removal of Title 42, there's most likely a massive caravan. I really wouldn't be surprised going into the next fiscal year of 2023 if we see an absolute explosion in illegal migration apprehensions and border crossings. And of course, what does that mean? That means more drugs, more violence, more human suffering, human trafficking, more abuse of women and children crossing the border, more people losing their lives in car accidents or from suffocation, being stacked like sardines in the back of a truck in a trailer, drowning trying to cross the Rio Grande River, or simply not even making it past the desert on the Mexican side, not to mention the devastating economic impacts for American citizens and the American economy, American wages. Democrats plan on making it worse, and of course they do, of course they will. How can you solve a problem if you simply refuse to acknowledge its existence? If you live in an alternate, fluffy fairy tale reality where borders don't exist and people are people and everyone's an asylum seeker, everyone's a refugee, it makes no sense. It's hurting the source countries, it's enriching the cartels, it's hurting young women, and it's hurting the American middle class. In other words, Democrats and their policies suck. Sounds good and makes you feel all warm inside, but the consequences are real and significant. That's what I got though. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe if you feel like joining us here. Of course, like I always say, you know that we'd love to have you here at the Liberal Hive Mind. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.